I was awakened at 4:17 a.m. by a phone call that would change everything. The voice on the other end belonged to Dr. Jennifer Rodriguez from the Very Large Array in New Mexico, and I could hear something in her tone I'd never heard before, a mixture of excitement and what I can only describe as primal fear. "Michio," she said, her words coming fast, "something has activated inside 3I Atlas. We're detecting emissions unlike anything we've seen before, and they're increasing in intensity." I'll never forget the moment I first heard it. Not with my ears. You can't hear in the vacuum of space. Translated through our instruments into sound waves that human ears can perceive. It was 2:34 a.m. when my phone rang, jerking me from a restless sleep filled with equations and cosmic mysteries. Dr. Amanda Wright from the Arecibo Observatory was on the line, and her voice was shaking. "Michio, something's changed. Something inside 3I Atlas just activated. We're picking up acoustic resonances, vibrations, oscillations emanating from deep within the object's core. And they're getting louder, much louder. I've spent decades studying the cosmos, analyzing signals from the furthest reaches of space, decoding the whispers of dying stars and the echoes of the Big Bang. But I wasn't prepared for what I heard when Amanda played me the recording. After converting the electromagnetic oscillations and seismic vibrations into audible frequencies, the sound was unlike anything produced by nature or human technology. It was a deep rhythmic pulse, almost like a heartbeat, but fast and alien. Overlaid on this pulse were harmonic frequencies that seemed to swirl and dance, creating patterns that were mathematically perfect, yet somehow organic. "When did this start?" I asked, already pulling on my clothes, my mind racing through possibilities. "Approximately 4 hours ago. At first, we thought it was instrumental noise, but then the Deep Space Network confirmed it. The Very Large Array confirmed it. Even the Chinese Fast Telescope is picking it up. Michio, whatever is making this sound, it's using enough energy to shake the entire structure of 3I Atlas. We're detecting oscillations on the object's surface, vibrations that correspond to the acoustic patterns. It's like the whole thing has become a massive speaker." By dawn, I was in a hastily assembled emergency conference with the world's leading astrophysicists, acoustical engineers, and planetary scientists. We'd all heard the sound by now, translated and amplified through our instruments. As I listened to it again in that conference room, surrounded by worried faces, on screens from Tokyo to London to Sao Paulo, I felt something I rarely experience as a scientist: genuine fear mixed with overwhelming wonder. Dr. Robert Chen from Caltech had been analyzing the frequency spectrum. The fundamental frequency is approximately 28 Hertz, he reported, his voice tight with tension. That's well within the range of human hearing when converted, but there are harmonics extending both below and above infrasound down to 0.5 Hertz, ultrasound up into the megahertz range. The energy distribution across these frequencies is unlike anything we've seen. It's too perfect, too structured to be natural resonance. Play it again, I said, but slow it down by a factor of 10. Let's hear what's happening in the low-frequency components. When the slowed-down version filled the conference room, several people gasped. At the reduced speed, the sound revealed hidden layers, pulses within pulses, rhythms within rhythms. It was like listening to a symphony written by an intelligence that understood acoustics, mathematics, on a level we'd never achieved. Dr. Sarah Blackwood, a linguist from Cambridge who specialized in communication theory, leaned forward intently. "There's information in this," she said. "I'd stake my career on it. The pattern recognition software they've been running shows non-random distribution of acoustic events. This isn't just noise. I've witnessed some extraordinary things in my 50 years as a physicist. I've seen particles appear from pure energy in accelerators. I've watched the detection of gravitational waves from colliding black holes. I've even had the privilege of contributing to theories that describe the birth of the universe itself. But what I observed yesterday afternoon from the Solar Dynamics Observatory has left me speechless and frankly terrified in ways I never imagined possible." Let me start with what happened. At 1437 Universal Time, the Sun released a massive coronal mass ejection, a CME. These are not uncommon. The Sun regularly expels billions of tons of plasma into space, whirling charged particles across the solar system at speeds exceeding 1,000,000 miles per hour. We've been observing CMEs for decades. We understand their physics. We can predict when they'll hit Earth and prepare our satellites and power grids accordingly. This particular CME was classified as X9.3, a massive event, one of the largest we've observed in years. The energy involved was staggering, approximately 10 energy 32 AGs, equivalent to 1 billion nuclear bombs detonating. Simultaneously, the plasma cloud expanded outward from the Sun at nearly 3,000 kilometers per second. A glowing wall of superheated particles that would take about 18 hours to reach Earth. Orbit under normal circumstances. But these were not normal circumstances. Atlas was positioned almost directly in the CME's path. We knew the plasma cloud would hit the object. They calculated the trajectory. Precisely what we expected was what happens to any comet or asteroid caught in a CME. The charged particles would interact with the object's magnetic field. If it had one, strip away surface material, possibly creates spectacular visual effects. It's dramatic but predictable. What actually happened defies everything we know about physics, energy conservation, and the fundamental laws of thermodynamics. I was on a video call with Dr. Michelle Rodriguez from the Goddard Space Flight Center when it happened. She's a heliophysicist, one of the world's leading experts on solar activity and space weather. We were discussing the CME's potential effects on 3I Atlas when her face suddenly went pale. She was looking at real-time data from the Solar and Heliospheric Observatory. She shared her screen, and what I saw made my hands grip the desk. The CME had reached 3I Atlas. The plasma cloud, clearly visible in the ultraviolet and X-ray imagery, had engulfed the object completely. But instead of passing around it or scattering off its surface, something impossible was happening. The plasma was being absorbed, not deflected, not dispersed, absorbed, pulled into the object like water down a drain. We watched in real time as the CME's energy signature began to change. The plasma that should have continued racing outward toward Earth's orbit was instead concentrating around 3I. The object seemed to be creating some kind of field. We could see the distortion in the particle streams, funneling the solar plasma directly into itself. Within 20 minutes, virtually the entire CME had been consumed by an object no more than a few kilometers across. "That's impossible," Michel said, stating what we were both thinking. Where is all that energy going? Where is all that mass going? That CME contained billions of tons of plasma. You can't just make it disappear. But it wasn't disappearing. It was being absorbed. And as we continued to observe, we noticed something even more disturbing. A talus was changing. The object was growing brighter across multiple wavelengths. It was emitting energy signatures we'd never seen before. Most alarming of all, our gravitational measurements showed something that made no sense whatsoever. The object's mass was increasing. I immediately contacted colleagues around the world. Within an hour, observatory capable of observing 3I Atlas was pointed at it. The European Space Agency, NASA observatories in Chile, Hawaii, Australia, everyone confirmed what we were seeing. The object had absorbed the CME's energy and matter, and it was somehow converting or storing it in ways that violated our understanding of physics. Dr. Thomas Chen from Caltech ran emergency calculations on energy density. If 3I Atlas absorbed even a fraction of that CME's energy, he told me over a scrambled line. We're talking about energy densities that should only exist inside stars or in the cores of nuclear weapons. The temperatures should be millions of degrees. The object should be glowing like a small sun, but it's not. The surface temperature has increased, yes, but only to a few thousand Kelvin. Where's all that energy going? The panic began to spread through the scientific community like wildfire. I started receiving calls, officials, from military advisors, from people who wanted to know if this represented a threat. I've studied magnetic fields my entire career. From the quantum spin of electrons to the massive dynamos and planetary cores, from the twisted magnetic ropes in solar flares to the incomprehensible fields around magnetars. I thought I understood the fundamental principles of how magnetic fields are generated and maintained in the universe. I was wrong. The discovery came from NASA's magnetospheric multiscale mission, the MMS spacecraft. These 4 satellites were designed to study Earth's magnetosphere, the protective magnetic bubble that shields our planet from the solar wind. But 3 days ago, mission controllers redirected the spacecraft array toward 3I Atlas as it passed within range. What they measured was impossible. Literally, physically impossible, according to everything we know about how magnetic fields work. I was giving a lecture at MIT when I received the encrypted message from Dr. Patricia Reif at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center. Patricia is a legendary space plasma physicist, someone who has spent 4 decades studying planetary magnetospheres. She doesn't exaggerate. She doesn't sensationalize. So when her message read, "Drop everything, we've detected something, violets, Maxwell's equations," I knew this was serious. I excused myself from the lecture hall and called her immediately. What she told me made my hands shake. ATATs was generating a magnetic field with a strength of approximately 15,000 nanotech at a distance of 1,000 kilometers from its surface. For context, Earth's magnetic field at ground level is about 50 nanoteslus generated by a liquid iron core, the size of the moon, churning and convecting over billions of years. A talus is a comet-sized object, perhaps 5 kilometers across at most, with no apparent internal structure capable of generating such a field. But the strength wasn't even the most disturbing part. The magnetic field's geometry was completely, fundamentally wrong. Every natural magnetic field we've ever observed around planets, stars, even exotic objects like pulsars, follows certain rules dictated by Maxwell's equations.